Hello, I'm Michael Fortney, lifelong resident of Solano County, and I will be your host for this afternoon's call. As a campaign, we've had thousands of conversations at the doors, in people's homes, and in town hall meetings. We hear a consistent theme that folks young and old love Solano County but want what's best for its future. But there are challenges that we need to solve so that Solano County can reach its full potential. Here are a few of the voices and themes that we hear consistently.
Hi, I'm Princess Cooper. I live here in Vacaville, Solano County. I also own a business here in Vacaville, Solano County, and I do believe that this initiative would be a great start to bridging the gap here in Solano County. We have a job crisis where the jobs are not paying enough to match the cost of housing.
Hi, I'm Sunny Khatri. I'm a hotel owner in Fairfield. I support this initiative for a great reason. It's good for our community. It's going to bring a lot of businesses and job growth, and I think it'll be great for tax revenue and as well as grow our community in the positive manner we're looking for.
Solano County's residents as a whole are leaving the county on a day-to-day basis to get the jobs that they are educated and trained for.
Hello, my name is Uday Saeed. I am a small business owner in Fairfield, California. When it comes to Solano County, there is a big gap in housing, jobs, and economic opportunities for businesses. This initiative will help everybody in Solano County.
So I believe that California Forever will address the inequities that we are facing in our county. For instance, more housing, more affordable housing, more restaurants, more jobs. The jobs, everyone now, they call this a bedroom community. And the reason they call it a bedroom community is because people sleep here and they have to go somewhere else to to work because they can't afford. The pay is so bad here. So I believe that bringing all of these things together will really help Solano County to flourish.
Hola, mi nombre es Hortensia y trabajo en un pequeño negocio aquí en la ciudad de Fairfield. Y estoy viendo acerca de este nuevo proyecto, me gusta, muy interesante. Creo que va a beneficiar a familias, ¿verdad? Nuevos hogares, un área grande, ¿verdad? Además va a aportar trabajos, ¿verdad? Trabajos para jóvenes preparados. Y sí, me gusta porque va a mejorar la economía también, ¿verdad? Porque el condado county se está quedando atrás. Entonces, este es un proyecto que va a mejorar el área y va a traer mejoras para la economía, sobre todo.
Thank you. We've commissioned a study to see how Solano County is faring relative to other parts of the Bay Area. The numbers here show that Solano County lags behind the Bay Area on numerous quality of life metrics, and some of those metrics are getting worse. We commissioned former California State Budget Director and one of the most respected individuals on state and local finance, Mike Janess, to look into the data on how the county is faring. He compiled a report titled The Solano Gap, and I want to turn it over to Mike to discuss his findings.
Good morning. Yeah, I've been asked to give a little brief bio. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I began my career well, I started out as a carpenter, but ultimately I went to the Graduate School of Public Policy in Berkeley, got a degree there in basically numbers stuff. That's what I've been in my entire career, a numbers guy. I went to Illinois, did the highway budget there, worked as a legislative analyst for 10 years, got in management there. Ultimately ended up working in the Schwarzenegger administration, a couple different jobs, finishing up as the director of finance. Since then, I started a company with another guy, and we've done probably 50, 60 reports, all of which are basically numbers heavy because that's kind of what we do. This report, with this engagement, we were asked to look at Solano County and compare it in certain ways to the rest of the Bay Area. As you probably know, Solano is one of, can we start with the slideshow? Slideshow? Who's running the slideshow? I'm not seeing the slideshow. Is anyone else seeing it?
Stand by. We're still getting used to the era of Zoom press conferences.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little bit unaccustomed to that myself. More familiar with in-person stuff. So as we cue that up, let me just say a couple of things. One, just for background, I think you all know what ABAG is, Association of Bay Area Governments. There are 9 counties in ABAG, the 9 Bay Area counties, and Solano is one of those. So what this report does is it compares Solano to the other 8 Bay Area counties. A lot of you probably know the Bay Area is one of the most, if not the most dynamic economic areas in the country. It accounts for a hugely disproportionate share of the overall gross domestic product of the United States of America. It is really probably the most vibrant economic part of the entire USA. And so what the report looks at is how does Solano participate in that? And the bottom line is Solano has a real gap with the rest of the 8 Bay Area counties. I don't really think there's a lot I can do beyond talking about that in general without the slideshow coming up. I can say, though, that in these slides that I hope you'll see soon, each one of them has a source as to
Mike,
what. Yeah,
we've got the slides up, so I don't know if you just
I
get
am not seeing it. I wonder why.
Are you just able to talk off the report that you have, Mike?
Yeah, I can open the report and just go over that.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, each of the slides has the source, and they're all government data sources, things that I'm used to working with in my career going way back. One of the main ones is the U.S. Census Bureau, and they have something called the Small Area Income and Poverty Estimates. And that's the source of the data in the first slide, which is household income. I hope you can see that. As you can see, there is a substantial and growing gap between Solano and the rest of the Bay Area. Back in as early as 2000, as recently as 2002, the gap was relatively small, but over time it's grown substantially, and now there's about a 30% gap between what households in the Bay Area make annually and what households in the Solano area make. The next slide is employment of working age residents, and it's pretty self-explanatory. This one comes from the American Community Survey, also a product of the U.S. Census Bureau, and it just shows sort of the unemployment rate, or the employment rate, and how it's behaved over time, and how it relates to the statewide employment rate. And as you can see, Solano here is again far behind the rest of the Bay Area counties. There are a couple of counties that aren't quite as dynamic. That would be Marin and Napa in this measurement anyway. But for the most part, the rest of the Bay Area is doing extremely well, and Solano, of course, is dragging behind. If you look at unemployment, you get a similar picture, although it's not quite as dramatic. This data comes from the California Economic Development EDD department, and it just shows that the unemployment rate in Solano, while it tracks the Bay Area pretty well, obviously it would, it's still below. The blue line is significantly below the rest of the Bay Area. Another way to look at this kind of information is the high wage jobs. So where are all the high wage jobs? In this case, we don't have Solano specific, but we do have the MSA. MSA stands for Metropolitan Statistical Area. It's a standard way that the Census Bureau uses to look at kind of different economic indicators in the country, lumping them together for the purposes of doing surveys. The Solano area is best represented by the Vallejo Fairfield MSA, and as you can see, in high wage jobs, it's also substantially lower than most of the rest of the Bay Area. Santa Rosa, Napa, about the same as Solano. But if you look at the really dynamic parts of the Bay Area, San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, Santa Fe, those areas, they're doing substantially better in terms of getting those high wage jobs. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that the poverty rate in Solano is also a little bit worse than the rest of the Bay Area. In this case, the Solano line is the, what is that color? Call it brown. And you can see again, it does tend to track the Bay Area, but it's worse than the Bay Area. The gap between Solano and the rest of the Bay Area in terms of how many people, what percentage of the population in Solano is at the poverty level from a federal perspective. You can see that it's still is substantially higher than the rest of the Bay Area. Another way to look at poverty and unemployment, kind of all those things combined, is to look at the Medi-Cal enrollment. And Medi-Cal enrollment, you know, there are people who are without health care from their employer everywhere in the state. It's not an uncommon thing. Solano, again, though, is a little bit, in this case, it's only a little bit worse off than the rest of the Bay Area, indicating that there are more people below the poverty level or at the level of income that allows them to be on Medi-Cal. And there are fewer jobs that provide health care in Solano than in the rest of the Bay Area counties, as displayed here. Another indicator of sort of how the economy is doing, how the population is faring, is educational attainment. This is again from the U.S. Census Bureau, this time from their American Community Survey. And as you can see, both in terms of the number or the percentage of the population with bachelor's degrees and the percentage of the population with master's degrees, Solano again trails the rest of the Bay Area, this time fairly substantially. And if you compare 2006 to 2022, everybody else has grown pretty substantially. Solano has grown from its lower base, but not as much. So I think it's safe to say, again, on this measurement, Solano's gap is getting worse. Another way to look at sort of the economy and how it's affecting people in your county is how much county revenue do you get? This data source is the state controller's office. There's a government financial reports. You can go to that. It's on the controller's website. And it just shows how much revenue comes into the county. This isn't, this isn't in dispute. This is public data. And on a per capita basis, that is for the average person in Solano, the amount of revenue the county is taking in to provide that person with services, roads, etc., police, fire, all of that, is again trailing the rest of the Bay Area rather substantially. So in conclusion, we found that the gap between Solano and the Bay Area is substantial. That's especially significant when you consider how important the Bay Area is and how dynamic it is. You would think that Solano, being so close to the Bay Area, would have a good chance of sharing in that dynamic economic, educational, governmental services spectrum of services, but in fact, it is lagging behind, and there is a substantial gap, and in many cases, that gap is increasing. So with that, that's the report that we did. And I don't seem to have the Zoom. Am I out of the Zoom?
No, you're right.
Nope. Is that the end of it for you, Mike?
Yes, that's it. Okay, I'm back on the Zoom. Yes, I'm sorry. I sort of lost the contact there for a minute. So anyway, yeah, that's the report, and happy to take questions if there are any.
I think Mike,
Okay.
you're stepping back.
Great. We'll take a break there. Thank you very much, Mike. But first, we want to hear from a Vallejo resident, David Cates, followed by Dixon resident Jesus Gonzalez.
Yeah, my name is David Cates, and I'm a 20-year resident of Solano County here in Vallejo. And I'm also a former chair of the Economic Development Commission here in Vallejo. And as such, I've reviewed a lot of development proposals for Vallejo, and I'll give you two examples of ones that I've reviewed. One was a liquid natural gas facility on Mare Island, and the other one was a cement plant on our waterfront here in Vallejo. So imagine my excitement when I saw this California Forever development. I think the promises that they have are incredible. They've promised to give local communities like Vallejo and downtowns money and help for their downtowns in development. They've also put in some environmental promises as well, and some job promises. And we need jobs here in Solano County. Right now, most of our residents commute to San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, Walnut Creek, surrounding communities for jobs. I would love to have our residents have high-paying jobs here in Solano County. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now we'll hear from Jesus.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Jesus.
How are you guys?
We've got you.
Yeah, so thanks for the invite. I'm more than happy to share what I think. And hold on, we're doing something here. And yeah, like I said yesterday, I am a farmer person who lives in Dixon, right by Creed Road. So downtown is going to be 2 miles away from my house, and I'm really happy with this project, which I like to find out more information about what is going to be around us. And I think that's a great project. I always believe in changes. I think every time we do some change, or the world do some change, I think benefit a lot of people, most of the people. And I don't see so far whoever have a new change fail. It's everything always success. So I really believe in the new technology. I believe in the new generations because that's the future. And so I'm more than happy to support with whatever I can do for the new city. I got 40 acres right there. So something my family and I, we can do. We are farmers. And I hope there's an opportunities for us even to support the work, because I'm a small business person. I like to see what I can do also for this project.
Thanks, Jesus.
Great. Thanks, Jesus. That concludes the presentation portion of this call. I'm now going to turn it over to Brian Brokaw for question and answers.
Yeah, no, at this point, if you have a question, since all our participants are unmuted, I would ask you either raise your hand if we can work through any Zoom technical difficulties, and we'll take them in order. If not, you can also drop your name in the chat and questions for Mike on the project or any of our participants. Justin, I am not able to see whether hands are raised, so perhaps you can
I'll call on people as they raise their hand.
Great. And we'll be distributing the report in its entirety in just a few minutes as well, so everyone will have the information that was in the presentation for any follow-up that you're looking to do. Okay, any questions? Find that hard to believe.
All right, Matthew Keys, you're unmuted.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Matthew Keys with Solano Newsnet. I think I'll ask the question that maybe is on everybody's mind, but they're too afraid to ask, which is this study that's been commissioned, how is this supposed to persuade people who are opposed to the California project to come over in support to the project? I mean, we haven't had a chance to review the study yet because it's being released after this conference call. But it appears that there are some very hard opinions on the other side, and it's not entirely clear to me how releasing a report on economic disparity in Solano County is supposed to win over support for the project. So maybe you can address that. Thank you.
Sure, and I'll take that because I don't think that's a question for Mike. I mean, this is part of the process of communicating with the voters of Solano County. And I think, over the course of the coming months, we'll be communicating directly with voters about the benefits of the project and showing voters, what the positive changes that can come as a result, and making sure that, the people see that there is an existing gap and how this project could address that gap moving forward. And this will be part of the course of the campaign.
All right, Chris and Carlo, you are able to unmute.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I mean, is there a way to extrapolate moving forward what the economic benefits would be based off of the data that you saw, Michael, depicting Solano County's status in the Bay Area? Can you show us maybe how that would move forward into the future?
Mike Janest, I'm going to let you try to answer that question. I mean, I think that's probably a speculative question, although we have talked significantly about the benefits of the proposal, including our Solano jobs guarantee and other aspects of the growth that we would anticipate coming from this. But Mike, do you have any thoughts on that in particular?
Well, I only looked at the situation as it exists now. I didn't analyze the project, but the data I showed is pretty overwhelming that there is a substantial gap between the really vibrant economic activity that you see in the Bay Area, which again, I'll repeat, is one of the top, if not the top, economic engines of the country, and then this gap between the rest of the Bay Area and Solano. So yeah, I didn't analyze specifically what would happen if you had this kind of a development project put down inside of the county of Solano, but I think it's pretty straightforward that it would substantially improve that gap. Now, I haven't gone into the detail of an economic or an econometric projection. That can be done. That is, to my knowledge, that has not been done.
Next question. Any other questions?
Levy, you are able to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. Levy from Cal Matters. Michael, I'm wondering if you analyze or when you were doing your analysis of the data, whether some of it can be attributed to the fact that Solano County is on the outskirts of the Bay Area, and also that the affordability, it's been the most affordable place to live in the Bay Area for so long, and therefore the people who tend to live in Solano County are more lower income and poorer folks. And I just wonder whether you have any thoughts about whether California Forever's effect on the affordability of housing in the Bay Area will be, in Solano County, will be positive or negative.
Well, as to the first part of the question, yeah, I did think about that. I think it's kind of hard. It's usually hard to impute causality, but I think it's fairly straightforward that it is on the outskirts. People do commute. Similar to both Sonoma and Napa. Obviously, Napa is hard to compare with anything, but Sonoma and Solano are roughly the same distance from the Bay Area. Of course, they both border it in some sense. Sonoma's probably more remote from where the real economic benefits of the Bay Area are. And it's closer to San Francisco. I think you're looking at Contra Costa, Santa Clara, Alameda. Those are also very vibrant, economically active parts of the Bay Area, which are closer to Solano. And Sonoma is substantially better off. I don't mean to say better. I mean, it's all a great place to live, I'm sure, but its numbers come out a little better than Solano. So I don't know that it's entirely attributable to the distance factor. Clearly, it's on the outskirts. I don't think you'd ever expect Solano County to have the kind of economy that, let's say, San Mateo or Santa Clara has. But it seems to me that it should be able to share more in the economic benefits than it has. As to whether this project will increase or improve affordability inside the Bay Area, I think if you look at, and I know you guys at Cal Matter have looked at this extensively, but I always go to the legislative analyst's office, and they make it very clear the affordability problem, housing affordability problem in California is almost entirely attributable to the fact that we simply don't build enough houses. So here's a chance to build a lot more housing. That can only have a positive effect on the housing market overall. And it's a substantial number, so it should have a noticeable impact on the affordability of housing. Obviously, the state of California needs to build a lot more housing to catch up with our housing problem. And this is not at a level that's going to solve the whole state's problem, but it should be a positive benefit to housing affordability, even as far away as the Bay Area.
Thank you.
Ben Vandermeer.
Ben, you should be.
Yes, thank you. Kind of to piggyback a little bit off that last question, given that Solano is a bit on the edge of the Bay Area, I know that this was looking at Bay Area counties. Was there any thought on how well Solano's gap or economics compares to, say, counties to the east, such as Yolo and Sacramento, where candidly a lot of people from the Bay Area have been moving for affordability, much as they have to Solano County? And in that sense, is that maybe in some senses, at least for the eastern part of Solano County, a more apples to apples comparison, since I suspect places like Fairfield and Dixon aren't terribly different from Davis, Sacramento, Woodland, places like that.
I'm sorry, I lost a little sound in the middle of your question, but I think that I got the last part. And I don't have a specific answer to that. There are a couple of the charts. Well, there's one chart anyway that's based on MSAs, metropolitan statistical areas. And one of those, of course, is Fairfield, Dixon, not Dixon, just Fairfield. So you can compare that to the Sacramento MSA. Yeah, so I don't really have a specific answer to the question, no.
Looks like we may have a couple follow-ups. Are there any questions from anyone who has not yet asked a question? JK?
It looks like JK dropped a question in the Q&A chat.
Can you read it? I can't see it.
He says, do you have any commitments from employers, any letters of intent?
Great. Great question. And I will say stay tuned. We will have more on that in the near future.
And then Karen Breslau said, what's your job protection? What's your job protection for California Forever? Not construction jobs, but permanent jobs in the communities. I think projection, sorry. What's your job?
Karen, I'll follow up with, we should have a conversation about that in a little bit more detail, because I think we've gone into that a bit already.
And then a last question from JK in the chat says, have any of the investors in the project committed to bringing jobs to Solano County?
Again, stay tuned, JK. All right, any other questions?
It looks like JK raised his hand. I'll allow him to. JK, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
I was just going to ask those questions.
Okay. All right. Well, seeing no others, thank you everybody very much for participating, and you will have that report in your inboxes shortly, and you can follow up directly if you have any further questions or want to have individual conversations with Mike or anyone else from our team. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll talk to you soon.